I never thought I'd be the person to tell this story. When the Vatican contacted me 6 months ago, I was working as a security consultant in London, dealing with corporate espionage and white-collar crime. Nothing in my background prepared me for what they wanted from me. Nothing could have. The call came on a Tuesday evening. A calm, measured voice with an Italian accent asked if I was Thomas Garrett, former MI5 analyst with specialized training in threat assessment. When I confirmed, the voice said only this: "The Holy See requires your services for a matter of existential importance. A car will collect you tomorrow at dawn. Tell no one." Then the line went dead. I should have refused. I should have called the police. Instead, I packed a bag and waited. At exactly 5:30 the next morning, a black sedan with Vatican diplomatic plates pulled up outside my flat. The driver never spoke, never even looked at me. We drove straight to a private airfield where a jet bearing the papal seal waited on the tarmac. 15 hours later, after flights and transfers I wasn't allowed to track, I found myself in a stone corridor deep beneath Vatican City. The air smelled of incense and something else. Something ancient and wrong that made my skin crawl. Cardinal Rossini met me there, a gaunt man with eyes that had seen too much. "Mr. Garrett," he said, his voice echoing off the walls, "what I am about to show you will challenge everything you believe about the nature of reality, good and evil. The Church has maintained certain facilities for nearly 2,000 years, prisons, if you will, for entities that cannot be allowed to walk freely in our world." He led me deeper, down stairs that seemed to descend forever. The temperature dropped with each level. My breath began to fog. Finally, we reached a massive iron door covered in religious symbols I didn't recognize. Rossini produced a key that looked older than Christianity itself. "3 days ago," he continued, "our head security officer had what we are calling a psychological break. He violated protocols we have maintained for centuries. We need someone from outside our organization, someone with your particular skills, and, frankly, someone expendable should things go wrong. Before we proceed, you must sign this." He handed me a document. Non-disclosure agreement, it read at the top. But that was a laughable understatement. The contract was 40 pages of dense legal text, essentially stating that everything I was about to see was classified at a level beyond any government security clearance. If I spoke of it to anyone, ever, for any reason, I would simply disappear. The Church had the power to make that happen, and we both knew it. I signed. God help me, I signed. Beyond that door was a facility the Church calls the Sanctuary of Final Things. It's a prison, but not for humans. Rossini walked me through corridor after corridor of cells, each containing something that defied rational explanation. Things that had once been human, things that had never been human. In one cell, a woman who had been possessed for 300 years and could not be exorcised, her body somehow suspended between life and death. In another, something that looked like a child, but spoke in a voice that made blood vessels burst in my eyes just from hearing it. But these were not my concern. My assignment was specific. At the end of the deepest corridor, behind 7 sealed doors, was a cell that housed what Rossini called the single greatest threat to humanity since the flood. The previous security officer had been found in his quarters, his eyes carved out by his own hands, muttering in Aramaic about the child who would unmake the world. "We believe he made contact," Rossini said quietly. "We believe it spoke to him. This cannot happen again. Your job is to monitor the cell, maintain the protocols, and under no circumstances allow what is inside to establish communication with the outside world. These are the rules you must follow, without exception." He handed me a leather-bound book. "The Rules of Containment," it was titled, written in Latin with English translation. I read them standing there in that cold corridor, and with each rule, the weight of what I had agreed to settled more heavily on my shoulders. Rule 1. You must never look directly at the entity. Observation is conducted through mirrors angled, so you see only reflections of reflections. Direct eye contact, even through the reinforced glass, creates a connection that cannot be severed. The previous officer looked directly at it. You have seen what became of him. Rule 2. The entity appears as a child of approximately 7 years. This is a deception. It is not a child. It has never been a child. It is older than the church, older than Christ himself. It is the Antichrist, born in 37 AD and imprisoned by the Apostle Peter himself. Do not let its appearance deceive you into compassion. Rule 3. Every 6 hours you must verify the 7 seals on the cell door. Each seal is inscribed with prayers in a language predating Hebrew. If any seal shows even the slightest crack, you must immediately activate the Omega Protocol. Do not attempt to repair the seal yourself. Do not delay. Activate the protocol and evacuate. The facility is rigged with thermite charges sufficient to melt the entire complex into slag. This is preferable to the alternative. Rule 4. The entity will attempt to speak to you. It has perfect knowledge of every language ever spoken by humans. It will use the voices of people you love, people you have lost, people you have hurt. These are not hallucinations. It can access your memories, your regrets, your fears. When it speaks, you must recite the prayer of silence, provided on page 47 of this manual. Do not deviate from the words. Do not respond to anything it says. Even acknowledgement gives it power. Rule 5. You must never be alone in the monitoring room. At all times, at least 2 people must be present. The entity is a master of illusion. It can make you perceive things that are not there, fail to perceive things that are. Your partner serves as your anchor to reality. If your partner begins acting strangely, or if you cannot account for their presence in your peripheral vision, assume they have been compromised. Use the panic button immediately. Rule 6. Between the hours of 3 and 4 in the morning, the entity's power is at its peak. During this hour, you must not enter the monitoring room at all. The automated systems will maintain surveillance. This is when it killed its first jailer in 64 AD. This is when it nearly escaped in 1347 during the Black Death. This is when it whispers to the world in dreams. Stay in the blessed quarters. Pray if you are able. Do not listen to any sounds from the corridor. Rule 7. Every 72 hours, a priest performs the ritual of binding, renewing the supernatural chains that hold the entity. You must escort the priest to the cell and observe the ritual through the monitoring equipment. If the priest fails to complete the ritual, if he shows any sign of possession, you must seal him inside with the entity and activate the Omega Protocol. We have lost 19 priests over the centuries. Their sacrifice saved billions. Rule 8. The entity does not require food or water. It does not sleep. It does not age. Any request it makes is manipulation. There was an incident in 1823 when a sympathetic guard brought it a Bible thinking perhaps it could be redeemed. The guard was found dead the next morning. Every bone in his body shattered from the inside out. The entity had the Bible open to Revelation. It had annotated the margins with corrections. Rule 9. You may serve in this position for no longer than 6 months. Studies have shown that after 6 months, even the most disciplined minds begin to show signs of psychic erosion. You will experience nightmares. You will hear its voice when you are alone. You will see its face in crowds. This is normal. When your term ends, you will undergo a rite of forgetting performed by specially trained exorcists. You will remember nothing of your time here. The nightmares will stop. We hope. Rule 10. If the entity escapes, there is no contingency plan. The book of Revelation was not prophecy. It was a warning. It was an account of what will happen when the Antichrist walks free. The plagues, the horsemen, the breaking of the seals, these are not metaphors. They are literal descriptions of what it will do. Your job is to ensure this never happens. This is why we recruited you. This is why you signed the NDA. This is why you can never leave until your term is complete, or you're dead. I looked up from the book to find Rossini watching me with something that might have been pity. "Do you understand?" he asked. "I understand," I said, though I didn't. Not really. Not yet. That was 6 months ago. Tomorrow is my last day. Tomorrow I will undergo the rite of forgetting, and this will all become a dark dream I can't quite recall. But before I forget, I needed to write this down. I needed someone to know. The entity has spoken to me 163 times. I know because I kept count, even though the manual says not to. It used my mother's voice, dead now for 10 years. It used the voice of Sarah, the woman I loved and left because I was too afraid of commitment. It used the voice of the child I could have had if I had been brave enough to stay. It knows things about me that I have never told anyone, things I barely admit to myself. Twice, the seals have shown micro fractures. Both times, I came within seconds of activating the Omega Protocol. Both times, maintenance priests arrived at the last possible moment to perform emergency repairs. They moved with practiced efficiency, these priests. They have done this before. They will do it again. I have watched 6 rituals of binding. During the 4th one, the priest began speaking in tongues, his eyes rolling back in his head. My hand was on the seal button when he suddenly collapsed, gasping. He completed the ritual on his knees, blood running from his nose. Afterward, he told me it had offered him everything he had ever wanted. He told me he had come within a heartbeat of accepting. I have worked 307 shifts with 14 different partners. 2 of them had to be removed after showing signs of compromise. The first began laughing during a routine check, a high-pitched sound that didn't stop even when the medical team arrived. The second simply stood up during hour 3 in the morning and walked toward the monitoring room. I had to physically restrain him. He fought me with inhuman strength, still sleeping, still walking. When he woke in the medical ward, he had no memory of it. The nightmares started after week 3. In them, I see what the entity sees. I see through its eyes, looking out from its cell. I see myself standing at the monitors. I see how it studies me, learning me, understanding me. In one nightmare, I saw myself walk to the cell door and begin unsealing it, my hands moving with someone else's purpose. I woke up screaming, my hands bloody where I had clawed at them to make them stop. The visions came next. 3 times I have seen the entity standing in my quarters when I know it remains locked in its cell. It appears as the child it pretends to be, dressed in a simple white gown, its feet never quite touching the floor. It watches me with ancient eyes in that young face. It smiles, and when it smiles, I see everything it will do if it gets free. I see cities burning. I see oceans turning to blood. I see the sky tearing open and things pouring through that make the entity look almost merciful by comparison. Last week, during the forbidden hour between 3 and 4 in the morning, I heard singing. It was a lullaby my mother used to sing to me. Note, perfect, coming from the corridor outside my quarters. I lay in my bed, covers pulled to my chin like a frightened child, and listened to my dead mother's voice sing me to sleep. When dawn came, I checked the recordings. The audio showed only silence during that hour. But I heard it. God, help me. I heard it. Yesterday, something happened that isn't in the manual. During a routine seal check, I noticed something strange. The prayers inscribed on the seals are in Aramaic, predating Christ. But one word on one seal was different. I am not a linguist, but I know enough to recognize when something is wrong. I photographed it and showed it to Rossini. He went pale. Not frightened pale, but the pale of someone who has had their worst fear confirmed. "When did this change?" he asked. I told him I didn't know, that I only just noticed it. He studied the photo for a long time, then looked at me with those haunted eyes. "This word," he said. "In Aramaic, it means forever. But the change you have documented, this now says until. The seal no longer says the binding is permanent. It now says it is temporary." "What does that mean?" I asked, though I already knew. "It means the entity is stronger than we thought. It is slowly rewriting the seals from within. It is counting down to its freedom. We have been imprisoning it for 2,000 years, but it has been patient. It has been waiting, and it is almost done waiting." Rossini has called an emergency conclave of the highest-ranking church officials. They are meeting now in a chamber I am not permitted to enter, deciding what to do. The options, as I understand them, are these: attempt a new, stronger binding ritual that may fail and accelerate the entity's escape, or activate the Omega Protocol and destroy the entire facility, hoping that will be enough to end it. But here is what I know, what I have learned in 6 months of watching this thing. It cannot be killed. Destroying its physical form will not stop it. It is not really in that cell. The cell is just where we have pinned down one manifestation of it, one anchor point into our reality. If we destroy the facility, we lose our ability to monitor it, to contain it. It will be free to work in the world unseen. I think that may be what it has wanted all along. I think 2,000 years of imprisonment was never about punishing it. It was about keeping track of it, knowing where it was, what it was doing. We thought we were its jailers. We were actually its babysitters, and now the child has outgrown us. Tonight is my last night on duty. Tomorrow, I will forget all of this. The rite of forgetting will erase these memories, and I will return to my life in London, never knowing what I knew, what I saw. Part of me can't wait. Part of me wants desperately to forget, to not carry this burden anymore. But another part of me knows this is wrong. Someone needs to remember. Someone needs to bear witness. If the entity escapes, if the seals fail, the world needs to know what's coming. They deserve a chance to prepare, even if preparation is ultimately futile. That's why I'm writing this now, why I'm hiding this document where the church won't find it. If you are reading this, then either I found a way to preserve my memories and share them, or I am dead, and this is the only testimony that remains. Either way, you need to know what the Vatican is hiding. You need to know what is imprisoned beneath the Holy See. The Antichrist is real. It has been real for 2,000 years. The book of Revelation is not coming. It has been held back by prayer and sacrifice and the dedication of countless people who gave everything to keep humanity safe. But I fear that time is ending. The seals are failing. The entity is winning. In my last nightmare, I saw what happens next. I saw the moment the final seal breaks. The entity walks out of its cell, still wearing the face of a child. It walks through the corridors of the facility, and every door opens before it. It walks up the stairs, level after level, emerging finally into St. Peter's Square at dawn. Tourists are taking pictures. Priests are beginning their morning prayers. The sun is rising over Rome, and the child walks into that rising sun and simply dissolves. Not dying, but spreading, becoming part of the air, the light, the world itself. In that moment, it stops being imprisoned in one place and becomes imprisoned nowhere. It becomes free to work through anyone, anywhere, at any time. The plagues don't start immediately. They're subtle at first. A politician makes a decision that seems reasonable, but leads to war. A scientist makes a discovery that seems beneficial, but unleashes devastation. A religious leader preaches unity, but plants seeds of division. The entity works through human hands, human voices, human choices. And it doesn't destroy the world directly, it helps us destroy ourselves. I wake from these dreams certain they are not dreams at all. They are previews. They are warnings. They are the entity showing me what it will do, mocking me, with my powerlessness to stop it. My shift begins in 3 hours. I will walk down those corridors one final time. I will check the seals, knowing they are failing. I will avoid the entity's gaze, knowing it sees me anyway. I will follow the rules, knowing the rules may not be enough anymore. And tomorrow, I will forget. They will take this knowledge from me for my own protection, for the protection of the secret. I will go back to my life, and I will never know how close we came to the end. I will never know if we succeeded in holding back the darkness, or if we merely delayed it slightly. But you know now. You reading this, you know. The Vatican made me sign an NDA about the Antichrist, but NDAs only work if people honor them. I am breaking that contract. I am risking everything to tell you this. When they discover what I have done, I will disappear. I accept that. Some things are more important than survival. Watch for the signs. When a child appears who should not exist, who knows too much, who smiles with ancient cruelty, when leaders rise preaching peace but bringing division, when the world seems to be tearing itself apart from within, remember this testimony. Remember that there's a reason, an intelligence behind the chaos. Remember that humanity has faced this threat before and imprisoned it for 2,000 years. Maybe we can do it again. Maybe there's still time. Maybe faith and courage and sacrifice can win again, as they did when Peter first bound the entity. Or maybe not. Maybe this is simply how the world ends, not with bang or whimper, but with a child walking into the dawn and spreading like a disease across the face of everything we love. I don't know anymore. 6 months of watching that thing has broken something in me that the rite of forgetting may not be able to fix. I feel it in my mind, a presence that should not be there. I dream its dreams. I see through its eyes. Sometimes I think in languages I have never learned. Last night I caught myself smiling in the mirror. It was not my smile. It was the entity's smile, wearing my face. For just a moment I understood what the previous security officer must have felt. The temptation to just let go, to stop fighting, to accept what it offers. Peace, power, purpose, an end to doubt, to fear, to the burden of choice. I almost accepted. God forgive me, I almost said yes. But I didn't. I held on. I recited the prayer of silence until the presence faded and my smile became my own again. And that is what you must do if the entity escapes. You must hold on. You must resist. Even when it wears faces you love, speaks with voices you trust, offers you everything you desire. You must remember it is a deceiver, an ancient thing that feeds on corruption and despair. My time is almost up. The priests are calling me for my final shift. After tonight, I will remember none of this. Thomas Garrett, security consultant, will return to his flat in London and his ordinary life. He will never know he stood on the front lines of an invisible war. He will never know he helped hold back the apocalypse for 6 more months, unless I am wrong. Unless I find some way to keep these memories, some way to resist the rite of forgetting. The entity has shown me things, taught me things it should not have. Perhaps it was trying to corrupt me, but perhaps I learned something useful. Perhaps there is a way to remember. If I succeed, if I keep these memories, I will spend the rest of my life watching for signs. I will know what is coming. I will try to warn people, though they will never believe me. I will be the madman on the corner shouting about the end times, and people will laugh and walk past. But I will know the truth, and truth has power, even when no one believes it. If I fail, if the right takes these memories as it is designed to do, then this document is all that remains. Hide it well. Share it carefully. Trust only those who have the strength to bear this knowledge without breaking. The entity is patient. It has waited 2,000 years. It can wait longer if necessary. But every day the seals weaken. Every year its influence grows. It works through dreams, through whispers, through the corruption of small choices that lead to catastrophic consequences. Someday, perhaps in our lifetime, perhaps in the lifetime of our children, the final seal will break. The entity will walk free, and everything we know will end. Unless we stop it, unless faith proves stronger than corruption, unless humanity rises to face this threat as Peter did 2,000 years ago. I don't know if we can, but I know we must try. Because the alternative is unthinkable. The alternative is everything. They are here. The priests have come to escort me to my final shift. Tomorrow, the rite of forgetting. Tomorrow, blessed oblivion. Remember this testimony. Remember what the Vatican hides. Remember that the Antichrist is real, and it is patient, and it is winning. May God have mercy on us all.